do I start square, make life a little bit harder for myself? There's no right or wrong, but if you're starting to struggle a bit, I find people getting better, just that angle. The angle changes everything. So rather than me standing, I think about my base, like Hickson talks about very basic drills. I think about my base and keeping my arms in tight and not letting them wander. There is a world of difference even between this and that, right? If he connects to my arms, he is not stopping my hips from advancing. But if you're tense and you're like, here, I'm just thinking about putting weight on him, well then I connect my arms and hips to his feet. And now when I move with him versus, right? It's super subtle, but lots of people will let you just put your feet on their arms and then they'll just be glued, right? So that's sort of like first bit, right? First bit there. So then the next game becomes really, if I go inside the guard, the game becomes really about his knee and ankle against my knee and hip. Now that's actually a big step for me, because I've gone from having his feet either controlling my hips, blocking my arms and keeping me back so I'm too tense. If I let it go, I can start, he's now got to reset, right? And this is where people can start putting weight in. But essentially I'm trying to transfer the game to being around my hips and my knees, like somewhere in here. So now, you know, this is a challenge for him, because once I start connecting knees, he starts bearing weight. Yeah, so that's then that bit of the game. And then really, from this point on, I've got under, over, under, or just completely over. Yeah. If I was going to go round the guard, it tends to happen back here. So not all that's going to immediately go in, but I want you to start looking at it and just sort of making this mental note. Because once I start getting around the guard, it all starts to become about him trying to maximise his space, which is what you've seen on our round that I posted up. I was trying to maximise all the time this space here, and not allow that space to be closed, move into my side, etc. One final thing on this is, as I create the angle, as a general rule, right, he's got two options. He can extend his body away, just put your leg on, yeah, lift your hips, lift your hips and put weight. Yeah, now I'm bearing weight. That slows me down a lot versus his hip being on the ground. Matt talked about this, put your hip on the ground. Matt talked about this at camp. Here I'm passing, lift your hip. Here I'm bearing weight, see my leg staggered back. So my general gist here is that any time that he is starting to end up flat like this, his problem is he can't extend. So he kind of needs to maintain contact with me and start to get onto his side, bringing that shoulder over the top. The reason this shoulder needs to come over the top of the bottom shoulder, creating like a downward angle, is it allows him to back arch up into the ground with minimum, up into the air, minimum friction. If he's like that, if he tries to back arch, he can only go so far, because he's hitting ground and he's getting friction on the back of that bottom shoulder. Yeah? So I've hopefully got a reasonable amount of that on camera. I'll put that up later. I want you to watch it again and again and again. Like, just watch what I've just said, back again and again and again, because that's what's basically going on. There are some other things as well, but that's the big ones that are going to stop most of the passes in their tracks. Or if you think about it from the top, that's what's going to help you. One final thing, people still hold themselves up a lot. When I'm here, the only reason I hold myself up is I'm worried I'll end up in his closed guard. So I'm connecting my weight. The minute that I get any kind of angle, I should be dropping. Unless he's holding me up, I'm dropping like an avalanche on him. No hands on the mat, because that slows me down. And now I've basically passed the guard, because I've just filled that space up. Most people hold themselves up way too much. Yeah, or they put their, or as they drop, they start putting hands on the mat. And if I put my hands on the mat, all the weight goes out of me. You know, it's like it start to feel like it's fighting a child because there's just no weight. Rather than 13 stone or whatever you've got dropping down on their chest, which is what you need. All your weight needs to be just dropping and making them push. Yeah. So let's just we'll get 3-minute rounds going. Might need to use downstairs, I think. So we'll get a 3-minute round going.